Rob, how are you?
Good, thank you, mate. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to see you again. Glad we got to get some time in the diary for
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. Been looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, just so kind of listeners and viewers know, I put up a post on LinkedIn about the digital transformation, maybe some of the fears that the hotel industry have, adopting technology across the stack. And you put some incredibly thoughtful comments on it. And really, I suppose that's where this conversation started. If we give listeners and viewers, I'm sure many people know you. You've been in the industry for quite a while, worked with some incredibly big brands like the likes of Accor, Malmaison, Best Western. But maybe you can just run us through the first few years of your hospitality industry experience, and then obviously becoming CEO of such a big group. I think everyone would love to hear how that happened.
Man, I was like many people. I fell into hospitality. It was I played sport, Australian football, and I went from the country. I grew up in country Australia, and it was about 6 hours to the nearest city, which was Sydney. And I went down to Sydney to play with the academy there, and they said you have to study something to be a part of the academy. And I kind of went through the list. I was like, what's the easiest one I could choose? I found hospitality. I'm like, all right, that'll do. I'm going to do hospitality. So I went to a hospitality college for a couple of years and started working started in Hilton in housekeeping of all things. I spent a year in housekeeping. And about after that, I went to food and beverage with IHG. But after a couple of years, it didn't work out with the football. The sport wasn't right. So I'm kind of glad that they said you have to study something, because I wouldn't have done anything. And and I just stayed in hospitality. I didn't finish the course. I pushed that to the side, but I loved working in hospitality. It kind of was a rush, an adrenaline rush, especially coming from the country and having such a remote, isolated lifestyle and not being exposed to much in this world. Jumping into a big five-star Sydney hotel with all multinational people, and it was fantastic. I loved it. So it was such a thrill. So that's how I got into hospitality, and I spent the first sort of 5 years in operations, just working through different departments before I joined Accor, and spent 10 years with Accor, and that was at the start of the internet. So the internet was just coming about, and pricing was being impacted majorly because wholesalers all of a sudden could see the price that we're putting online. And I remember being a part of Accor's very first website, and I happened to be knowledgeable in hotel operations. And at that time, I was working in GDS, loading rates for travel agents. So I kind of understood both sides, and they needed someone to say, right, we got to do something about pricing. And that was the birth of revenue management. So I kind of fell into revenue management, and I ran with that. And I spent 15 years in revenue management and worked my way through all different sort of brands and different segments of the industry. And before I was lucky enough to be appointed CEO of Best Western, it was a huge privilege, and it's an honor. It's like you've got to carry the baton, I guess, a 40-year-old business, and I just carried the baton for 3 years. But that was a lot of fun as well. So before I moved out here to the US, and here we are.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I'm in sunny Dubai, you're in sunny Florida, so Best Western was raining, cold and rainy England.
Oh, yeah, I was up north as well.
Yeah. Massive group globally. Can you give context to people on the spread across the UK for the group?
Yeah, in the UK, we were 307 hotels when I left, and we had like Shore Collection, which was your entry-level economy to mid-scale brand, right through to World Hotels. And when I left, we had 7 World Hotels, which are sort of luxury end of the market. So I think everyone thinks Best Western and just thinks that core brand, but there's a huge range of 17 brands from economy through to luxury. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a membership model, so no owned assets. It's really it's akin to franchising.
Okay. And that was during COVID?
Yeah, man. Thanks for bringing that up. That was pretty tumultuous. But I joined in 2018 at the start of the year, so I had 2 good years before COVID really took hold, and had a lot of fun. And that was a hugely impactful period, but also pretty tumultuous.
Any learnings from that period? If you look at like we always talk about being guest centric in the hotel industry, and that was a tough period for everyone. You had to not only be extra cautious of the employees' satisfaction who were working in during that time, but you've then guests coming from all over the world still. I'm not sure if you had any, COVID specific hotels that held NHS staff or anything like that, but was there any big learnings of how you approach the guest centric experience during such a difficult time?
Yeah, I mean, we became so anti-guest centric. It was all, stay 6 feet away and behind a perspex glass and all this kind of thing. I think what we did for COVID, everyone's journey was different. It's the first time you're talking about a 40-year-old company that had a very stable P&L. Financial position, a very good cash balance. It was the first time that I'd been involved in a business where we looked at the P&L and said, this could fold us. This could really fold the company. And it was frightening. So I guess once we dealt with the commercial aspect of the business and stabilizing, incomings and outgoings and making sure that the business could survive, some period of time, because we didn't know how long it was going to go, our attention turned to what positive can we drive out of this, and how can we, there's a lot of things we can't do, but what can we do? So we really, I played a big advocacy role for the industry, and I joined some all-party parliamentary groups in the UK, and I was on the news 2 or 3 times a week, advocating for the industry and some of the crazy rules that were being imposed on us, really without a lot of thought and without a lot of discussion. So I took on that role personally, but as a company, we sort of looked for what we can draw out of this, and we did many things. We had a television program, which people are familiar with, and not sure how that went, but we also had, we wrote letters to thousands of people across the country who were isolated at home. We just get, we get addresses. We collected a lot of addresses from our customer base to say, who's at home, who'd like to have a letter? Do you know anyone? We had thousands of people subscribe, and all our staff were at home writing letters to say, hey, how are you? And sending pictures and getting their kids to write them. And so we tried to look for what we could do rather than what we couldn't do.
Amazing. I love that. We actually had Kate Nichols on from UK Hospitality during that time. So you probably, cross paths with Kate. She was doing a similar advocacy role for the industry. It was a tough period.
Yeah, we all had we had weekly calls amongst all the CEOs of the brands, and chaired by Kate. Yeah. So we were very much in close contact through that period. So it was a really cool time to see everyone come together, and really work towards a common cause. That was one of the really, I guess, positives to come out of COVID.
Amazing. Listen, I want to kind of move track into the major theme of this episode, which is technology. You mentioned during your time at Accor, you were there at the beginnings of the internet, and you talked about the GDS systems and manually uploading rates. A lot of, I believe, the rhetoric we hear from whether it be IT managers or just people in the industry in general when we're talking about change is, it's a legacy systems, the tech stack is so messy. Can you kind of bring us back to the origins of technology within the hotel stack, maybe starting with something like the PMS, and just talking us through why we talk in the sense of legacy systems, antiquated tech, and the fear of change then?
You know what? In 30 years of hospitality, there's been some significant change. Internet's an obvious one, technology, COVID, but they're all external forces. I think the biggest change that impacts technology in a big way, which I'll get to shortly, is the, I guess, a rebalancing or a shifting of influence. When I joined hospitality 30 years ago, it was very much an operationally led industry. And typically, if you wanted to be a general manager, or you wanted to be a CEO of a company. I mean, at Hospitality College, we were talking about trying to become general manager. And it was rule of thumb that you had to go through the F&B path. You had to be a restaurant manager. And, there was no chance of someone coming through front office and becoming a general manager. Very, very slim chances. And that shift has happened over 30 years because of hundreds and thousands of really wonderful revenue managers around the world. That's really been driven by the revenue management community, forming a collaborative commercial department. And that balance is now, I would say, reaching an equilibrium. It possibly might have gone a little bit too far towards commercials, and I think it's maybe swinging back a little bit. It needs to be a balanced collaboration between ops and commercial. And talking about technology specifically, because that's the topic we're talking about today, is if you look at a property management system RFP from 25 years ago, what were the requirements? It was very operationally led. So it was, could we sign a corporate contract with a $25 credit, and they can't have alcohol. They can only use these particular outlets. It was very intricate edge case billing scenarios. It was, can we do traces by person, dates, customer? It was very operationally led, and that was the requirements of a PMS. If you look at it today, with that whole transition of influence changing, it's very commercial, right? What do we want from a PMS today? It has to be really good at distribution. It has to have, we really want direct connects with Booking.com and Expedia as a bare minimum, and a channel manager. You really want, you want to be able to sell your attributes. You want to be able to sell your high floors. You want to be able to sell the rooms next to the lift or away from the lift at a premium, without having to create a room type, which is what we had to do in the past. You want to be able to sell attributes. You want to be able to sell late checkout and early check-in, and it's very commercially led. And even from a cost point of view, from an operational point of view, we want the system to be as simple as possible. And we want payments to be automated so we can facilitate incredible service from all the wonderful people who work on the front line instead of staring at a computer. And that shift is kind of really recent. It's really in the last 5 to 10 years. And I think that's what people describe as legacy. They're like, wow, we got these legacy systems. Well, no, you've got these systems that were really driven by operations that did a lot of really intricate functionality that you really got to question, do you still need it? And that's what we did at the project that I was involved with Village, which we spoke about. That's what we did. We sat down and went, right, maybe we need to contract different. Maybe we need to go to our corporates and say, here's a bed and breakfast rate, a dinner bed and breakfast, but we're not going to do the £25 credit with no alcohol. And all those cases, perhaps we need to look at our entire operation and change it. So is it the system or is it operations? My view is it's operations, and we need to consider that.
Interesting. I love it. I never looked at it from that way. What I have seen when I speak to, I suppose, the hotel group as a whole, it feels like you have siloed decision makers across the different parts of the system. So housekeeping, front of house, F&B, revenue management. And I don't see how you can have a seamless tech stack when you have individual contributors. I don't know even if it's individual budgets on the P&L line, and all of a sudden you're kind of shoving in your requirements for tech without like an overarching, say, product manager or head of technology that makes sure that each system actually is complementary to each other. And I've seen that a lot. Have you noticed that in the industry?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, the biggest example I could offer here is the Village Hotel tech stack. So that's kind of the one that was a major overhaul of, something like 45 partners we changed out. And if you look at those 45 partners and who was responsible for each of them, it was exactly as you described. And payments was a big one, right? Payments sat with finance, who were off at that time doing a deal to save money. They were saying, look, we can get our transaction fees down, which is great. They had the right intention, and it's not ill-intended. It's just how it was. And they found another deal. They got a consultant to come in, paid the consultant a lot of money, tens of thousands of pounds, to find a new deal with another supplier. I can't remember if it was Alavon or Lloyd's. I can't remember, but and they were successful in doing that and signed a 5-year deal. Now, that payment supplier didn't integrate with the POS, so it meant every time a beer was sold in the bar or whatever it was, they had to manually then type the amount into the POS machine, because all that finance was focused on was the transaction cost. It meant front desk didn't have tokenization, so we couldn't do automated check-in. It didn't automatically bill the customer's card, so it had to be done manually by the receptionist, which we were trying to completely reshape. And that silo kind of behavior of just the payments field, which is so critical, was evident across the entire business. And you're absolutely right. I think until there's a shift in mindset, particularly among the independents, I think the groups are a little bit more organised, and it's changing. But until that shift happens, you're right, there's going to be big roadblocks in front of technology for hoteliers.
We've talked a lot about systems and from the hotel side of view, whether that be operations or systems being the problem. But the thing I think and I find this quite amusing, also slightly shocking, is we're in an industry that is all about the guest experience. Yet 99% of the conversations I have, even though like our business separate to the podcast is selling guest technology, they talk about the hotel's operational impact. And we forget that without guests and happy guests, we don't have hotels. So why do you think there's such a disconnect between the hotel talking about guests versus what they currently do, which is talk about their own needs and their own systems and their own ease of work? Do you think we're missing something?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and it comes back to that topic of the siloed effect and the fear of change, and there is an awakening. COVID kind of helped, but there is an awakening that still needs to happen across the big brands now don't own their assets. So it's not really the big brands because that's more the franchise, but the franchisees where they have one or two franchises, it's a little more difficult because it's still operationally led and the labor structure demands that. You simply can't have an IT product manager with a Holiday Inn and an Ibis in your portfolio. It's got to be in the general manager's hands. So the structure, the core structure, when it's a small independent hotel, that mindset's still there, and there needs to be a bit of an awakening, and it'll take time. It's really, they need to look externally to some consultants to help them bring that all together. But it's knowing that's what they need and being willing to do that. And I think that's the challenge. The good news is that that's kind of shifting. And we saw that at Best Western. Our ownership, when I first got there, was entirely family operations. Not entirely, but 80%, 85% family operations that had been passed through the generations. They had one or two hotels. And we had to change the way we worked because we could see it shifting towards asset management companies, which operated 12 or 13 hotels, or businesses that were just growing and they building a central office. And that's when I think you start to get the change, because all of a sudden the P&L supports having a person over top of IT or a person over top of HR, et cetera. And that'll be the change.
If you're let's just create a scenario here. You're a hotel manager listening to this episode. You're quite excited about technology, especially on the guest side. You've worked across various different types of hotels, whether it be big groups, big corporates, franchises, maybe independents, etc. Let's say take all of those learnings. If you were to give advice to this hotel manager to go, right, this is how I want to approach digitalizing my hotel, both from the operations side and from the guest side. Like, rather than go 6 months into it and make a bunch of mistakes, if you were to sit down with them today and you were right out, here are my learnings, don't do what I did, or build a better path towards success, what would you say to them?
There's a really clear process to follow, and you've got to step back from the operation and sit down with the P&L and say, right, what are all my costs for technology? Not just what am I paying in a license fee, what are my total costs? What am I paying for network? What am I paying for everything? Transaction fees with payments. Take a step back from that, figure out that number, and then go to a trade show, go to a ITB, go to a WTM and walk around the tech section and consider that full pot of cash and say, what could I buy for this? The things to look for: an open API platform, open API published, that is easy to connect to in the future. We don't know what products are going to come out tomorrow, what new technology suppliers are going to be here in 2 years, 3 years' time. But with an open API architecture, published API, it means that third parties can connect. And you want to have what's called self-certification. I don't want to get too deep here, but easily connect. That's the simplicity of it. That would be the first thing. The second thing is get a CRM. Like, a lot of independent hoteliers don't have CRM. Ensure you get a good, solid CRM. And that would be your starting point. We could talk about this for hours, but perhaps bring a consultant in and try to do it with somebody who's done this before.
I really love that approach. I might ask you one thing. Do you think they're spending too little on tech in relation to revenue? Like, if you look at the OTAs percentage of money spent on R&D and tech development, and we're going to get on to OTAs versus hotels in a moment. But should you be taking that pod and probably adding a bit to it as well?
I think you added at both ends, and that's probably the knowledge gap that exists in the smaller hotels, because you have got a general manager that's overseeing everything. But if you have a CRM and you work that CRM well, that will generate you top line revenue. If you have a good two-way connection with the OTAs and direct connect as opposed to using a channel manager that's a little bit shaky, whatever it might be, that will drive you revenue. If you have automated payments, this one we didn't know at Village. This is the coolest one of all, right? When we did tokenized and automated payments, we shifted the payment to prior to arrival. Huge, huge cultural shift. It's quite simple just to move payment to start from checkout, from check-in to check-in, from checkout. Culturally, it's huge. But what that drove us, and we didn't know, was we were driving hundreds of thousands of revenue of no-show revenue. Why? Because prior to that, it was up to the receptionist to charge the no-shows. So did it always happen? No. The answer is no. We didn't know that. But all of a sudden, we changed payment suppliers, and the payment supplier cost us more than the old one. So we had to work with finance and get out of the deal and work with an integrated payment supplier. The transactions cost us more, but the income was huge. So yes, there should be greater investment in technology, but it's knowing where to invest that generates more for your top line and for your bottom line. And it's an equation that, it's a straight ROI equation.
I think that was part of our discussion on LinkedIn, was our product's not good enough at generating what the ROI is to the hotel. So if we flip it for a second here, and you were speaking to a software provider that thinks they're bringing great value to hotels, like, who are the people in the hotel, the personas that you should be speaking to, and how should you be translating the ROI of your product so it hits home, right? Because at the end of the day, it is two humans making a decision. It's the person buying the product and then someone selling the product. How do you bridge that gap to position it in a better light to the hotel decision maker?
There's no single answer to that one. And who do you speak to in a hotel? There's also no single answer, because in 5 different companies, you'll find that the responsibility sits in 5 different places. So you're finding the right person is already a challenge in our industry, because it is so incredibly fragmented. And then even the brands. I mean, you look at, let's say, Marriott, Accor, Hilton. They're heavily franchise led, so they don't make the decision on technology. They'll say, yes, you have to work with this PMS provider, but what a hotel uses at local level as their payment provider or their kiosk or whatever it is all the hotel's decision. So just within Hilton, you'll have thousands and thousands of decision makers, and it'll never be consistent. Sometimes it's the general manager, sometimes it's an IT person, sometimes it's the ops director. It's such a fragmented space. So that's probably the first challenge. And then I think the second challenge is just experience. Is in a lot of cases in those small groups, which we've spoken about, it's the general manager who just simply, no ill intent, just don't have the experience of what drives a return on investment. They're not marketeered. Maybe they did come through food and beverage and they came through operations, and they don't understand digital marketing and how powerful that could be. There's just so many, unfortunately, I think no single answer to that question, but the defragmentation of the industry is the biggest opportunity for every tech supplier. I'd be looking at that and saying, right, whenever an independent is bought up by an asset management platform or a new platform is formed, that's where you probably want to get in, because they're the ones that are a little bit more sophisticated and have that experience of driving ROIs across the business.
Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity for the independent brands and the smaller groups to move at speed that the big groups can compete with. So I do know that Marriott's new tech strategy and their new product is coming out in 2.5 years. To us who work in the actual software world, that's laughable, because everything's going to change by the time that they bring it to market. So the younger brands and the smaller independents, they can move at such speed. They don't have to go through the bureaucracy. There's probably a bigger opportunity for the independents and small chains to outcompete, to some extent, the bigger chains with faster adoption. Would you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. And I would say probably more skewed towards the 10 plus, 10 to, the 10 to 30, 40 hotels, 50 even. They're the sort of medium-sized ones who will have a central office function, who oversees the, I guess, the wider picture of the P&L. That's the perfect target, and that's where the change will be driven from, in my opinion. I mean, it's take Village. So that was a, you know, we didn't get it right. We got loads of things wrong, and we were doing it early, so we messed up tons of things. But what we did do was we went to a trade show. We didn't run a huge giant RFP. From the day that we decided we were going to change PMS, 6 weeks later, we took our first hotel live on the new platform. It can be done. It is possible. If you've got a will and you want to do it and you've got a team that are bought into it, it's totally possible to do this in weeks. It's not something that takes years. It's ridiculous that it has to take years.
Yeah. No, listen, we're big fans of speed, so I like that comment. OTAs versus hotels, right? Been talked about for years and years and years. Why are hotels so bad at competing with Booking.com and Expedia, and why is the percentage of OTA bookings versus direct going further in the direction of the two big duopoly companies, that is Booking and Expedia? And what do hotel managers and teams need to do to change and fight back?
This is not a question that's come up in recent times, and you know that. If we go back to when I first joined the industry, there was no Booking.com, no Expedia, it didn't even exist, not even brands that existed. And it was dominated by the wholesalers. So it was all about TUI and, for us in Australia, it was Australian Outback Travel. And there was, all these dominant wholesalers. And we always had the conversation, how do we fight back control with the wholesalers? Annual solicitation was my job. We had to go out and do an annual solicitation of our rates because we only set them once a year. We could put some seasons in there. I remember having meetings with some of these guys and explaining about having different pricing on weekday weekends. And they dominated the industry. They really dominated. And then all of a sudden, in Australia, it was What If, which was eventually bought by Expedia, came along. And we looked at that and we developed our own website at the same time. It was like, here's an opportunity to get away from the wholesalers. It's the exact same thing, right? We've just got Booking.com doing the exact same thing the wholesalers did, and they control about a similar amount of the percentage of the business. I think at a point, we've got to step back and go, this has been going on for decades. And you've got to step back and go, let's look at this differently, right? Are we competing with them or are they our partners? And okay, there are some things that happen. I know they play games and we're constantly fighting them with parity and all this kind of stuff, but there's cat and mouse stuff that goes on in every business relationship. They're your partner. But what you do need to have, and what is missing, is a good, simple, direct business strategy, CRM. I mean, so many independent hotels still today don't have a CRM and just rely on the brand. If you've got a franchise with 2 or 3 hotels, just rely on the brand to deliver your business. Well, the brands, you're paying the brands almost as much as you pay an OTA. You need a basic CRM, and there's so many products and suppliers out there. You know them well, and they're not, they're not sophisticated. But that's a huge educational piece. Is have a direct strategy that drives your business direct, and look at those guys as your partners and driving your business that you don't have to pay. You pay for in commission, but you're not having boots on the ground to have to do it. There's a lot of hidden costs in distribution, and OTAs aren't that bad.
Do you think they're partners if they don't give you any of the contact details of your guests?
No, I hear what you're saying. Like, we had this problem because we emailed our pre-arrival check-in at Village, but you work with your partner and you're able to find solutions, and we were able to find solutions to it. The other thing is that on our kiosk, so we got the ghost booking, that ghost email that they gave us. They'd send that to us and we could communicate with the customer. But on our kiosk, we built a system, a process into our system where when it was a ghost email, it deleted that email, and the guest, whether they're on their app or whether they're on the kiosk or someone was checking, couldn't check in without giving us their email. So just have a basic strategy at hotel level to capture the customer's email and put them into your CRM, help them into your CRM. And that's what I mean about a CRM, because then you can talk to them directly in the future, and they might not come back. I would say 90% plus in most hotels are customers who will never ever come again. Or they might only ever come once every 2 or 3 years, but they could use one of your sister hotels. And if you get your timing right, they could come back with the right marketing. So have a CRM and drive that direct. Have a strategy to take the bookings direct. I understand why Booking.com are doing that and Expedia. I'd do the same, but hotels have just got to run their own race. Because I think if you look external, look for all the blames, you'll never solve your problems. look inward and try to solve it from a control perspective.
Yeah. I'm sitting in Dubai right now. It's probably one of the cities with the most convenient way of living that you could probably imagine. With the click of a button, I can do pretty much anything. Dry cleaning can be picked up, groceries is delivered, taxi outside, pick up packages, you name it. It's a couple of taps of an app. Pretty sure where you are in America, it's pretty seamless with the likes of Instacart and GoPuff and all the other brands. Why is it for a guest, does it feel like you're applying for a mortgage to get into the hotel? Do you think a desk with soldiers behind computers asking you for all of your information is hospitality, and having to go on to something like booking.com, give all your information, arrive at the hotel, and they don't have anything and know anything about you? Like, why is that such a mess?
Yeah. Oh, man. And this comes back to that mindset as opposed to systems, right? We can be so antiquated at times. The one that probably does my head in the most is the five-star market. Like, if you work in five-star, they think nobody else could be successful in five-star unless they've spent their entire career in five-star. Really, sit down and work out what the differences are. You have a higher end FF&E, you have different target customers. The fundamentals are exactly the same. Like, it's archaic to think that way. And I think, five-star talk about automated check-in. Oh, we want to give personal touch. If I had a pound for every time I heard that, I'd be a wealthy man. It's mental. That's a mindset issue. And I think COVID's kind of kicked it along a little bit, but we still lag in a long way. And my opinion on the catalyst to change here is that balance shifting to being more commercial. And I see that opening up now. If you look at even 10 years ago, there were really no significant challenges to Oracle. When we went out and started looking for a partner, we took on a partner that was, had a great product. We had to really revamp our operations, because there was a lot of things I couldn't do. There was no credible alternative. Today, you could write down a page full of credible alternatives that can deal with multi-currencies, multi-taxes. And that's happening because there's a lot of investment coming behind them, and there's a mindset change in the industry. And I think it's driven by the commercial teams that are saying, listen, let's start to catch up and adopt new technology. So I think there's positive change coming, but we still have some really antiquated mindsets.
Where do you think that mindset comes from? And I hear that so much. Oh, we're all about the personal touch. And like, my view on that is, like, five-star hospitality is actually subjective. Like, you're telling me it's about the personal touch, but when I arrive from the airport and I've got a meeting tomorrow and I'm staying in a five-star, I'd prefer to not speak to anyone and go straight to my room. And that would be great hospitality to me. How is it the hotel manager's job to dictate to their guests what five-star hospitality actually is? Where's the mindset?
I'm at a loss as much as you are on that one. I mean, we all stay in five-star hotels for certain occasions, right? But generally, I'll stay in a 3 or 4-star Marriott or Hilton if I'm traveling for business. I mean, this idea that our customers are different is ridiculous. The majority of customers, when you go to any five-star hotels, also stay in 2 and 3-star hotels, depending on the purpose of their travel. So it's absolutely ludicrous for us to have that attitude, but I'm very aware it exists, and it's frustrating. I think the positive side of this is, I do think that is shifting as the commercial mindset, that balancing of influence shifts. That's slowly changing.
I would say, like, when I travel quite a lot, and when I would look at, like, the five-star stays, I'm not necessarily, and actually I'm not at all staying for the personal touch. I'm staying because I know the design will be beautiful, the location's probably amazing, the bedroom is great, the food is good. That's what I'm paying for. I'm not paying for a nicer person at the front desk to check me in, because I actually don't think that person is a nicer person than if I stayed at a 3-star. They're doing the same job. Their uniform might be more expensive, and the lobby might be more expensive, but it's a bit of the same.
And it frustrates me no end to stand and line up to check into a five-star hotel, which I would say 80% of five-star hotels, it takes way too long to check in. compared to when I go to an independent 3 or 4-star hotel and I just walk straight through because they've got an automated check-in system or whatever it might be, pre-arrival check-in, even pre-arrival check-in. I mean, give me the chance to get through all the admin. If you can't open the door, fine. At least give me the chance to check in before I arrive. It just seems antiquated, and you're absolutely right. I think it'll shift over time.
What is your view? Because you mentioned kiosks earlier. So like when I look at digital experience, it's truly digital. So it'd be like if I was going on a restaurant app and it said, we'll do home delivery. And then you order the food and then it says, but you got to meet us halfway in between your home and the restaurant to pick it up, right? When I see hotels say we've got a digital experience, but then they don't do payments or they don't do the key, or there's something that they're missing, or then they say we have a digital experience, but it's a kiosk in the middle of the lobby. Like, I think that's nearly worse. Not only do I have to arrive at the hotel and stand, I then have to do it myself. So like, where do you come at from the angle of what is digital and what's just physical, but it's a computer screen, Where do you...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the real trailblazers, in my opinion, certainly in the UK and Europe, were Citizen M on this one, and there was a genuine, fully automated journey, and that was who we modelled Village on. Was I met with Michael Levy and got some really good advice, and that was how we modelled Village. Was that it was entirely digital. You could actually run the whole process without ever talking to a human. We took it to the point where you could check in on your Apple Watch. You could. Or Android Watch, whatever it might be, and that would open the door because we have BLE with the doors that the keys that we put in. The challenge, I think, and it may have changed significantly now, but at that time the challenge was the customer simply hadn't kept pace with what we were doing. So we would invite every customer to check in online and to use their mobile phone, but it was a pretty low take up. We're talking on the weekends, we get up around 10-12%. Midweek, you're talking 4 or 5%. The majority of customers still, because I hadn't been educated that way, still came into the hotel and they checked in on a kiosk. Now, we didn't ram the kiosk down anyone's throat, right? We had a host stood at the front door with a big smile on their face. They didn't have to be, we really hired on personality and disposition as opposed to experience or knowing how to use the PMS. It was people, and they would welcome the customer. And, a good host would, and we train this, would know that, if you see someone walking through the door who's unlikely to be comfortable using a kiosk, then you just gently make your way over there. Don't assume, but gently make your way over there and see if they need any assistance and do it for them if they want. If someone's standing there getting frustrated, take over, do it for them. So kiosk was absolutely the driver at that time, but we're talking 2015. I'd say today you probably see very different numbers.
I looked at stats because I think a great analogy is airports and the boarding pass. So when it initially came out, because the consumer behavior hadn't shifted at the time, the stat was about 5% adoption. It's now over 90% where people just have that boarding pass in their wallet. And now every airport in the world has the digital way of going through security. Any tactics you think, or did you work on anything that improved the, I suppose, that making it more aware to consumers that this is a possibility? Do you think it's just something that will take time, that once they see it in one hotel, they'll expect it in another hotel, and all of a sudden the domino will fall? Or how do you think hotels could educate the guests a bit better?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I mean, we certainly did everything we could at time of reservation, pre-arrival, and even on arrival to I won't say educate, but to help guide the customer through the journey that was available. The problem and the very fundamental difference to the airlines is the fragmentation, where even though we've got big brands like Hilton, Marriott, and Accor and Best Western, they're majority made up of franchisees who are 2 or 3 properties. Sometimes they'll have more, and it's incredibly fragmented. And the airlines, it's not fragmented. You don't have 17 owners for 20 planes. It's a single ownership, and it's much easier to implement technology. So that's the big challenge that the hospitality faces, is the fragmentation. And I guess podcasts like this and the job that you guys are doing there, a fantastic job you're doing with your business. And I know I saw you raise some capital recently. Congratulations on that. That's what it's going to take.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like our concept was always, if you look at Deliveroo or Uber Eats, you don't have to download the independent Indian restaurant, the burger restaurant, the sushi restaurant, the pizza restaurant, different apps. It's just Deliveroo, Uber Eats. And we felt bringing one app to the market that hotels could subscribe to, that guests can download once and then use it at multiple hotels, regardless of the brand, and ultimately have like fractional ownership in our app, but the guest feels like they've got a travel app for the globe, was something that could work at scale. But yeah, that was always our approach, just looking at the user, not actually thinking about the hotel at all, even though we knew the hotel would come back and say, but what about our brand? But as you said, over 90% of those guests will probably never be back anyway, so why do they want your probably below par, awful user experience app for 2 or 3 nights?
You're absolutely right. And I think the problem that you're solving will be very well received in the industry, because you're absolutely right. The independents can't solve it, even the brands. I mean, unless you're Marriott or Hilton, it's kind of difficult. Village, 30 hotels, Malmaison, 28 hotels. It's difficult to get someone to download an app that they might use once every 12 months, 2 years. So it's challenging.
Yeah. Listen, let's finish up with what you're up to at the moment. Obviously people know you from your past, and as you said, maybe the cameo on the TV show. But you've changed passports to the United States. What does your day-to-day look like right now? And also, how could people get in touch with you moving forward? I know you had a book out as well, so you can do a bit of self-promo if you'd like. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you're up to right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, after the whole transition period, I transitioned with my chairman. So when from the moment that I had the first initial discussion with the chairman, it was about 7 months to the time that I left. It's a long transition period and quite smooth because he knew the business. So once that was done, I took a sabbatical and wrote a book and moved out to the US and kind of decided to sort of rethink things. Positively. Some people kind of, you went through a midlife crisis. I'm like, no, I don't feel like I was in any kind of crisis. It was positive. It was, I really wanted to sit back and say, what's the future hold? And yeah, so I've tried a few different things. I'm currently working with a brand called Story Collection, a fantastic brand of castles and historic homes in the UK. And we were up to just over 10. I think we're just hit 11 actually this week. Just signed a new one. So building that brand up, really focusing on a market that hasn't had brand coverage for hundreds and hundreds of years. So trying to bring that together. It's really family businesses that have been passed through for sometimes 700-800 years. So it's a really fun, really sexy product. Exclusive use castles and historic homes. A lot of fun. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm working on another project to solve to try to fill empty rooms. We're an industry, man. This gets to me, right? Here's something I want to say. This industry, talking about mindset, we in the US. The hotel business, hotel market runs at 66%. This year it'll be about 64% occupancy. That's 36% empty. And we're okay, right? We all sit around and we go, oh, my competitor got 66, they got 66, I got 67. Yeah, we had a win. No, you perish 33% of your product. What other industry in the entire world is prepared to perish 33% or 36% of their product? I mean, supermarkets run between 5 and 10%. And even then, they'll use their perished items in byproducts, pet food or whatever. We are archaic, and I'm working on a project to solve that problem.
If you can't share it now, I'd love to dig into that another time, obviously. But why is that? Is that a lack of demand? Is that something like Airbnb, short-term rentals taking it? Like if there's 100 bedrooms, and right now tonight I've got 66 of them that are full. The other 34, like, why aren't they full? Is it a demand issue? Is it what is it?
I'd probably turn what byproducts does the industry offer? What if you can't sell your rooms on the open market? What alternatives do we have? I'm not talking about Groupon or Travelzoo or any of these guys, because that's open market. But if we think about it differently, think about a hotel and what your variable cost is. We have very high fixed costs, rents, general manager, lifts. You've got to pay for them whether a room's occupied or not, right? They're fixed costs. Variable costs are very low. That's unique to the industry. So if you talk about a car company, their variable costs are very high. Got to build a car every single time. We just have to service a room, right? So, and most people now use the pump soaps and things like this. I mean, Village, we got it down to about £7 to turn a room. So if you start thinking about that and saying, right, so if I got 10 quid for that room, that's a profit. And then if I got someone into my booking journey, they don't know it's 10 quid. I'm not saying go out and sell your room for £10 on the open market, but think about it. If you have rooms for £10, are there markets out there that we could sell them to as byproducts for 15, 20, £30? Of course there is. So, think about marketing promotions. Think about a car dealership. Imagine you go to a car dealership and say, listen, for all your Nissan dealerships across the US, I'll sell you 20,000 rooms at $20 each. I'm only making $13 a room out of it from my variable cost. But before I was making zero. And that's now stimulating new demand. So now your salespeople, if they want to convert a booking, they could say to a customer, listen, I'll give you a couple of nights at a 4-star hotel across the US. You could also say, hey, who my top salespeople are, I'll give you for the month. I'll give you accommodation room vouchers. The customer doesn't know that was $30. It's a voucher number that they've got, and they just go online and book it. By the way, once they go in there, they're going to buy food and beverage. They're going to buy upgrades. We did this study. It's about 80% if you have it really well set up. We don't think about it like that. We are too one-dimensional.
80% of the room.
We think 67% is a win. It's mad.
Can you talk me through the 80% there? You said you did the study. It's about 80%. Is that what 80% of the room price is spent on top of in terms of upsells and F&B?
Yeah. So we did a study at both Mel Mason and Village where we had similar programs to this, and both brands ran in the 90% occupancies. We just didn't accept that 77% in the UK was okay. And there were a number of strategies that drove that. But what we discovered is, and we analysed the hell out of it, once we got people into our booking path, 82% bought something else. They never just bought the room only. They would buy breakfast in the morning. And sometimes you've got to drive that. You've got to stimulate that a little bit. So you've got to push it. But if you're offering it at time of booking, if you're offering it pre-arrival, if your front desk or your kiosk or your app is good, it'll also offer it at that time. You should have it in the stay. Can you offer a late checkout on the day of departure in a seamless way and a really kind of easy to book way? There's tons of things that you can do to get upsells. And 82% of the customers that we sold on these cheap room rates, or not open, but cheap rates, bought something, either an upgrade, breakfast, late checkout, something.
Fascinating. Rob, make a promise to me when you've figured out how to fill that 34% in the US that's empty every night. Will you come on and do a show with us and tell us how you did it?
I'll fly my private jet there. That's 670 million rooms.
We'll do the podcast on the jet. Rob, listen, is there any final notes you want to leave listeners with? I've really enjoyed this. We could go on for a few more hours, but just want to be conscious of time and make sure that you if there's anything else that you wanted to share that we might have missed.
What you're doing there, I think, is really cool. The industry needs it, and I think you're solving a really cool problem. So I'm looking forward to see how how things evolve with your business.
Amazing. Well, listen, Rob, absolute pleasure. We'll leave all your details at the bottom of the show notes so people can reach out to you. Not sure if you're still doing consulting, but I'm sure after listening, people will have maybe a few more questions if they're putting some projects together. But Rob, absolute pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, mate. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.